Hello everybody, Jediwarlock here, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today, we are returning to the world of Azeroth for the final episode of the WoW Rocks series, where I take a look at some of the most geologically interesting areas in World of Warcraft. To finish off this series, at least for the summer, we're going to be taking a look at Desolace, one of the most unique and mysterious zones in all of classic WoW. I'll be going over the general geography of the zone, doing a deep dive on a few of the notable areas, and breaking down some of the lore and geologic evidence to see how this region could have looked long ago. So, with all that being said, let's get right into it and explore the world of Warcraft. Traveling south from the mighty Stone Talon Mountains, or north from the wild lands of Faerless, one encounters the gray ash and fetid water of Desolace. Skulls and bones of many creatures litter the landscape, a testament to how little can survive here. Giant stone monuments and temples, once flourishing as part of the Night Elf Empire, linger on in decline, now sites of demon worship or abandoned entirely. These ruins are not limited to the land of Desolace, as they extend outward into the Veiled Sea and culminate at Ranajar Isle off the coast. The zone is virtually a giant gray plain with some scattered mountains throughout, but there is some life to be found here. Along the west coastline, some trees and grass can be found surviving, likely due to their proximity to the sea. Similarly, the north slopes near Nigel's Point and Sargeron are noticeably greener than the flat land below, the plants perhaps fed by springs from Stone Talon or the Night Elves' own dwindling magic. The mountains in the east are largely absent of vegetation, serving as an impassable boundary between Desolace and the much more inviting plains of Mulgore. The rare sighting of green is not the only surprising color to be found here. The purple influence of demonic energy can be witnessed in the south and east, where cultists cast out of civilized places gather. Amid these intersecting features and landmarks is the constant backdrop of centaur warfare, with several major tribes vying for dominance in the cursed land. Desolace, or the place it once was, is the birthplace of the centaur race, and the tribes have a spiritual connection to the zone in the form of the hidden elemental temple known as Maradon. Players are even able to pledge their allegiance to two of the competing centaur factions, the Gelkis or the Magrim, marking one of the first times in the game's history where players participate in a zone-specific faction conflict. While the Horde and the Alliance both have footholds in the area, the zone is largely unclaimed by either faction, the wasted region left for the Centaur to bicker over. Before I talk about how Desolace in its modern form came to be, let's go ahead and discuss a few of the most important areas of the game map. One of the most prominent landmarks along the briny coast is Ethel Rathor, a giant tower of Night Elven design. It is one of the few to escape the destruction caused by the sundering of the coast long ago, and instead of watching over a proud elven city, it now stands vigil high above a massive sunken ruin. The Naga have recently taken an interest in the ruins below, and a wizard of the Argent Dawn has been dispatched to the tower to assess the threat. Ranajar Isle, barely visible from the tower, was likely also a summit in the distant past, holding up some sort of observatory or temple to Elune, the moon goddess. While there are countless ruins both on land and off the coasts of Azeroth, Ethel Rathor and its nameless city have stuck in my mind as one of the most distinctive and tragic, seeing as even civilization on the other side of the continent from the Well of Eternity still felt the devastating effects of its implosion. The most representative example of the lifeless environments in Desolace is the Kodo Graveyard, a small valley in the middle of the zone littered with bones of ancient Kodo beasts. Most often seen in Mulgore and the Barrens, and used by the Tauren as mounts, the Kodo once also roamed Desolace when it was a verdant plain. Now there are few left, and those that do live in the region apparently venture here to die. Judging by the size of some of the skeletons, it is obvious some species were much larger in the past and were either destroyed in the Sundering or slowly succumbed afterward due to declining food and water sources, which I think is the most likely scenario. While on the subject of skeletons, the Valley of Bones in the far south of the zone is home to many of them. Undead ravagers stalk the Cursed Valley, while two gigantic skeletons, nicknamed the Dead Goliaths, lay against the valley walls. These may have been servants of the old gods, and resemble Naga or snakes holding massive tridents. Another theory online speculated these could be similar beings to the mermaids seen in the stained glass of Ulduar, but we may never know for certain. It is also unknown how long these two have been here, but judging by how much the bones have sunk into the ground, and the beings supposedly belonging to the Old God or Titan groups, it is obvious they are several thousand years old at least. The centerpiece of the lore and corruption of Desolace, Maraudon is the birthplace and holy site of the Centaur race. The Maraudine clan guards the ancient temple, but there are darker things than warmongering centaur lurking below. Twisted plants, dark satyr, and corrupted elementals hold sway in this underground kingdom, which, ironically, is quite beautiful for such a place of evil. Underground streams, massive grottos, and stone walkways organically carve up the dungeon, making for a serene spot filled with life deep beneath the sands of Desolace. Long ago, the Grey Desert of Desolace was once known as Mashan Shea, a vast green plain and a site for Tauren shaman who believed the Earth Mother herself dwelled below. The Tauren spent decades trying to summon their god to the surface, but this great mistake was realized too late. It was not in fact the Earth Mother they summoned, but a dark elemental known as Princess Thoradris, who retaliated by absorbing all the life energy from the surface, turning it into the wasteland players know it as today. All of this happened over 1,000 years before Classic WoW, but the history here goes back even further. 10,000 years before the Dark Portal first opened, the land of Mashan Shea was dramatically changed during the Sundering of the world. As we established previously, the resulting tectonic activity caused the Night Elf city near Ethel Rathor to sink beneath the sea, and most of the other temples and structures on land were similarly ruined. The structure of Maraudon itself is something to consider when examining the region's past geology. Grottos, like the snaking tunnels and caves seen throughout the dungeon, can be created from weathering and chemical interactions from tides and rainfall hitting rock. Similarly, the giant fissure at the end of the instance seems sedimentary in nature, and there are multiple waterfalls leading into the fissure that could be partially responsible for the erosion here. I think it is likely that this giant fissure is very close to, if not at, sea level right behind the Valley of Spears entrance to Maraudon, giving me the impression that this wing of the dungeon is actually filled with salt water. The hydras here are another clue, and mark an interesting connection between biology and geology we can utilize here. All of the places where hydras are found on Azeroth, including Ashenvale, Ajara, and Dustwallow Marsh, are all coastal locations with salt water, meaning this species would probably need a salty environment to survive. In my opinion, this section of Maraudon was once much farther underwater in the distant past. making these advanced tunnel systems and grottos would require a much more active role by water erosion than just a few waterfalls. And I believe this could be easily explained by the sundering causing some plate collision off the coast of Desolace, causing the entire crust around the Valley of Spears to be pushed upward and disrupting the saltwater processes. While this is virtually the exact opposite of what happened in the northwest of the zone, I think something like a fault system perpendicular to the major plates could be at play here to cause the delineation between the north and south coasts. As always, a disclaimer that sometimes it's pretty difficult to account for every geologic variable in my research, but hopefully some of these analyses can work as independent explorations of WoW's geologic features and how they came to be this way. Desolace is a zone like no other in the world of classic WoW. While the gray landscape of bones and dried up rivers can be depressing, there is life, and yes, even some quests to complete if you know where to look. This zone was always one of the most mysterious and odd to me when I was growing up, but after digging deeper into it, it's not hard to see how it can become memorable in its own way. So, next time you're passing through or setting out to collect Kodo bones, maybe you'll see some of these areas in a whole new way. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning about the geology of Desolace in this final episode of WoW Rocks Season 1. I've really had a blast making this series on the world of Azeroth this summer, and I feel like I've learned a lot about recording and how I want my channel to progress in the future. I really appreciate all of your fun comments, suggestions, and theories about this incredible world. Remember, if you did enjoy today's finale, make sure to like the video, comment down below with your thoughts, subscribe to join the Jedi Order, and until next time, peace.